All right, hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alan Hunter, and welcome to FBT Sports. Today, we're going to be covering Week 7 of the NFL. And before I get into that, I know, I missed Week 6. Meest? Did I just say meest? I missed Week 6 of the NFL. I know, I'm sorry. I had some things come up in my life, and honestly, I just was not in the right mindset, mind frame, whatever you want to call it. I wasn't in the right place mentally to record an episode. And that's really why this episode is taking so long to get out as well. You'll probably be seeing this Wednesday night. It's simply just because this is the first time that I've felt comfortable actually recording a video mentally. I just was going through some things, and it wasn't doing so hot. Let's go with that. Either way, though, I'm back. And here's the other thing, right? I'm actually going to be starting committing to a schedule. Every Monday night, you can expect a new episode to be uploaded. Right when the NFL Monday Night Football game ends, that's when I'm recording my video. The minute it ends, I'm starting. So every Monday night, you can start anticipating a video from me. Subscribe so you never miss those episodes if you enjoy the content. If not, I'm sorry. I don't know why you're still watching at this point. But if you do enjoy the content, hit like. So go ahead and subscribe, and just look forward to it. Every Monday, hold me to it because I'm probably gonna forget eventually here. But let's get right into it. Right, Week 7 of the NFL. A little bit has changed since that last time we talked. However, one thing still has not changed. Russell Wilson is still my MVP going after Week 7 of the NFL. Going into Week 8, he still has to be the MVP favorite for me. He's had one bad game. He's had one bad game against a very good Ravens defense. The Ravens are a good team, and that shouldn't surprise anybody that the Seahawks lost, and that was the specific game that Russell Wilson decided to have his bad game for. It's going to happen. Every MVP season, every MVP, they tend to have that one bad game. Now, oftentimes that one bad game can be in the playoffs, but Russell Wilson had his in the regular season. I think that's the last bad game you'll see from Russell Wilson. I think he's going to go back onto his MVP tear. And I still think he's going to win MVP this season. Because one of the big things that just happened is Mahomes got hurt. Patrick Mahomes had to be the second favorite for MVP, if not the favorite for MVP. Now he's going to be missing upwards of 4 to 5 weeks with that dislocated knee. With Mahomes being out that long, he's lost the MVP race, if you ask me. I don't see Mahomes getting that MVP ever since he got hurt. Now, I think there's a couple dark horse candidates. Personally, I still think Lamar Jackson still has to be in the conversation. He's played awesome this season. I don't know why he ever was left out of the conversation, but he should be back in the conversation, especially now that Mahomes is out. We've got to have that second favorite. We already know it's going to be a quarterback. Lamar Jackson is a quarterback. I know the memes. I know. But he's a quarterback, guys. He's playing awesome. The Ravens are winning. Lamar Jackson is a dark horse candidate for me because he's still playing very good. He had a couple of rough games, but he's still playing very good. Another dark horse candidate for me. There's no way he wins it because he's a running back, but Christian McCaffrey, he's got to be in the conversation at least. He is dragging that Panthers team from the dead. I know a lot of people are saying Kyle Allen, but let's be honest here. That is Christian McCaffrey's team. And if Christian McCaffrey was not playing the way that he's playing right now, the Panthers would not be that great of a team. And so I think that's what it is for the MVP race. I think there's still a lot to be decided on for all the other award races, right? We really don't have a clear favorite for Offensive Player of the Year. We don't have a clear favorite for Defensive Player of the Year. Rookie of the Years are kind of toss-ups right now. I think Offensive Rookie of the Year right now, the favorite has to be Kyler Murray. I know that people are going to be talking Gardner Minshew. I don't think Gardner Minshew should, as much as I love Gardner Minshew, I'm a Washington State fan. Right, I'm from the Inland Northwest. Washington State is my team that I root for in college football. I love Gardner Minshew. Watched all of his games. Great quarterback. I think he's got an awesome future in the NFL. But he's still not my offensive rookie of the year. I still have to give it to Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is just playing that well. Right, Gardner Minshew is playing well. He's playing really good, right? Minshew Mania is alive and well. The Jaguars are winning games, which is very important, by the way, for Jaguars fans. They are winning football games right now with Gardner Minshew. However, Gardner Minshew had that really, really rough outing last week. Mind you, Kyler Murray had a really rough outing this week against the Giants, and so I think that's going to hurt him a little bit. However, I think Kyler Murray as a whole is still playing a little bit better than Gardner Minshew right now in terms of statistically, because that is super important when it comes to award races, is the statistics. Statistically, Kyler Murray is playing better than Gardner Minshew right now. Gardner Minshew is avoiding turnovers, which is awesome. But in terms of yardage and maybe touchdowns, I think they're actually pretty close on touchdowns. I don't know the stats on that. My bad. Other than the yardage though, Minshew's playing very well. Yardage wise though, Kyler Murray's winning that race, and so I think that for that reason alone, I think Kyler Murray has to be the favorite for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Coach of the Year, again, really another toss-up. I think Kyle Shanahan right now has to be the favorite with the 49ers. The 49ers are playing lights out. And more importantly, the 49ers are playing lights out playoff-styled football. They're not winning regular season games by passing the ball. They are winning regular season games by running the football. And if anybody knows anything about football, when you can run the ball effectively, you will win playoff games. That is how the NFL works. It's how the NFL has always worked. It's how the NFL will work moving forward. If you can run the ball effectively, you will win a playoff game or two. And so that's very important for the 49ers going forward. That being said, there's a lot of things to discuss going forward, right? Different teams and different players. And I think really one thing which I've noticed moving forward, now that 7 weeks in the NFL have gone by, where are the elite wide receivers? Where have the wide receivers gone? Right? Where'd they go? I did a little bit of research, right? One wide receiver who was in the top 5 in 2018. One of the top 5 receivers even made the top 10 this year. Through 7 weeks. 7 whole weeks. Right? I'm not talking... This is 5 guys who led the league in yardage last season. Right? The top 5 guys, one of them is found in the top 10. That means 4 guys dropped from your top 5 to 11 or worse. That's a ridiculous drop. And there's no excuses for it either. It's not because of injury. Right? It's not because of poor quarterback play, because most of them have had maybe even better quarterback play. It's just they're just absent. Notably, the one that I find really interesting that he's absent from a lot of the top wide receiver rankings is what happened to DeAndre Hopkins. Right? What happened to DeAndre Hopkins? A guy who didn't drop a pass last season. I think she actually dropped 1. Best hands in the NFL, right? Awesome wide receiver. Okay, was my first pick this year in fantasy. I was believing in DeAndre Hopkins. Where'd he go? Right? We still have we've got a great performance from Deshaun Watson. Right? It's not the quarterback. It is not the quarterback he's playing with. It's not the team he's playing on. That quarterback is getting the ball to his wide receivers, right? Will Fuller has had a 200-yard game with Deshaun Watson throwing him the ball. Right? That Houston Texans team, that's a good football team. But where did DeAndre Hopkins go? Maybe he has just taken a step back. Right? Maybe he has just taken a step back, been like, Will Fuller, you're a baller. I'm going to let you get some touches while I take a break this season. Right? Let's make a playoff push rather than a statistic push. Maybe that's the case. Right? That very well could be the case. I wouldn't doubt that for a second. However, it is still very notable to look at the fact that DeAndre Hopkins is not in the top 10. He's not in the top 10 for receiving yards, and that's a scary thought to me. Right? Of those top 5 wide receivers that I mentioned earlier, right? The ones who were top 5 in 2018, and only one of them is top 10 in 2019. Not one is Julio Jones. Right? And honestly, of all the wide receivers that were in the top 5, Julio Jones seems like the least deserving to still be in the top 10. Right? We're talking guys like Mike Evans, is out of the picture. Juju Smith-Schuster dropped off the face of the earth. And that's the only one that I really give a pass to because that is quarterback play, right? That is quarterback play. Ben Roethlisberger went down. Then Mason Rudolph went down, right? He's on his third string quarterback. It makes sense that his production is going to drop a little bit. He dropped a lot of bit, but his production still dropped. He's the one I give a pass to. Juju is the one I give a pass to because he's truly been faced with some very unfortunate circumstances. Right, but we've got so many guys who are in the top 5. Michael Thomas is balling out this season. But even Michael Thomas is a little bit disappeared from the top 5. Let me look up the top 5 this season, just to give you a little bit of a glimpse into it, right? I'm going to say some names, and then I'm going to say some notable missing names. I'm not going to mention Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown was not in the top 5 last year. He was in the top, I think he was 11th, but he was not in the top 10. Obviously, he's not going to be in the top 10 this year. Let's look at receiving yards. Michael Thomas is leading the league right now in receiving yards. My bad. I got that mixed up. That's my mistake. Michael Thomas was not in the top 5 last year, but he is the top number 1 receiver this year. Well deserved, by the way. He's playing awesome. Well deserved. Chris Godwin. I think that you say it Godwin, right? Not Goodwin. I believe it's Godwin. I'm not watching a lot of Bucs games. I'm not going to lie. They're kind of trash. And so, Chris Godwin, one of the lone bright spots on that Bucs team. Besides our coach. I love Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians is a great coach. Chris Godwin wasn't anywhere to be found. Amari Cooper's leading the league, or is 3rd in the league in receiving yards. Amari Cooper, DJ Chark Jr., and Cooper Kupp are in the top 5. I don't know where I got Julio Jones from. I said top 10, didn't I? I did. Julio Jones is in the top 10 at number 9. I got that a little bit mixed up. That's my bad. Right, we've got I'm gonna throw out a few names here, right? We've got Julio Jones as being the lone guy in the top 10. DeAndre Hopkins, Antonio Brown, he's not in the NFL anymore. Juju Smith-Schuster, right? Travis Kelce barely makes the top 10. He was a really good tight end, right? George Kittle, nowhere to be found. Okay. DeAndre Hopkins is 13th in the league right now. Mike Evans is 19th in the league right now. Where's Odell? He's nowhere to be found. Adam Thielen seems to have disappeared, right? And mind you, the Vikings are balling out right now. Kirk Cousins is playing awesome. But in terms of production, and maybe it is Kirk Cousins' fault, but in terms of production, Adam Thielen was killing it last year. Where'd he go? Right? Stephon Diggs is playing well, but where'd Adam Thielen go? And so that's kind of my point right now. Is like, where did our elite wide receivers go? Are we in a transition phase? Are we just transitioning to better wide receivers? Right? Different top wide receivers right now? Or are we just having wide receivers as a whole underperform? And I personally think it's the latter. Right? And I think it's a big problem that no one seems to be mentioning the fact that Austin Eckler, who I believe is a running back, let me confirm that real quick. I have it right here. Got big fingers. I keep tapping the wrong thing. Austin Eckler, right, is a running back. Top 15. Christian McCaffrey makes sense. I get Christian McCaffrey being there. But you've got a running back who literally hardly got any minutes last year. Right, he's outperforming guys like Mike Evans. That shouldn't be a thing. And maybe that's Bruce Arians' fault. Maybe that's a coaching issue. Maybe because of Bruce Arians, Mike Evans is having to take a back seat in the offense. I guess that's possible, right? It is possible, obviously. But it still is the point of elite wide receivers just aren't here right now. And if you chose an elite wide receiver, if you did the thing that I did, right, and you chose a wide receiver in your first or second round of the draft, I'm sorry. Fantasy draft, that is. Sorry. I'm sorry. Because I'm in the same boat. They've sucked. They've sucked. You know, Julio Jones is literally like the one lone bright spot on that Falcons team, who we'll get to here in just a second. But the wide receivers have sucked. The wide receivers have been awful. I shouldn't say they've been awful. They've been very disappointing, though. And I think it's a problem that no one's really bringing any attention to. Something which I also don't think is getting enough attention, but this time from the Falcons front office, is it's time to fire Dan Quinn. I was rooting for Dan Quinn. I like Dan Quinn. I think he's a good coach. I feel so bad for him for the 28-3. But Dan Quinn's never got over the 28-3. Ever since that Super Bowl comeback loss, the Falcons have never been the same. The Falcons have never been the same. Dan Quinn, I don't know if he lost the locker room. I don't know what happened. But the Falcons have never been the same. And their 1-6 record this year shows that. They've got all the talent in the world. They've got so much talent on that team. And they're 1-6? You've got Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, Matt Ryan, Devontae Freeman, right? You had Mohamed Sanu. All these guys are borderline Pro Bowl players when on top of their game. A couple of them are Pro Bowl players, even when they're off their game. And your offensive score is failing to score over 12 points in 3 games this season? 2 games they've scored 10 points. 1 game they scored 12 points. Their first game of the season. That's ridiculous to me. This offense should be putting up 30 every single night. Every single time they play football, this offense should be putting up 30 points. They're not. They stink. Whenever they're putting up 30 points, it's because they're getting dropped 50 on them on the other side. They're getting garbage time points. This team sucks. And that's the other point, right? Dan Quinn is supposed to be a defensive coach, right? Dan Quinn is supposed to be a defensive specialist. You're getting dropped 50 burgers on you after you've just lost by dropping 30 points. Then you lose by 30 points again, right? You know, you cannot keep justifying the fact that Dan Quinn still has a job. We thought that last year Dan Quinn should have been fired. Last year Dan Quinn should have been on the hot seat. Because this year, this year's a little bit different, right? Because now he's got no excuses. Last year, all the Falcons fans pointed out, oh, it was the injuries. Oh, it was the injuries. We're injured. Which, to be fair, they kind of were. I mean, half their team was injured. But this year, they don't have those excuses. This year, their team is healthy. Right? Their team is good to go. And they're still stinking it up. The Falcons need to look at a change at the head coach. A couple of other teams that need to look at change for their head coaches. Jason Garrett's got to go. The Clapmaster's got to go. I know, I'm sorry. Right? No more. I'm going to miss it. But it's for the best for the Dallas Cowboys. Jason Garrett's got to go. He's overstayed his welcome. That Cowboys team is underachieving. Those 3 straight losses, I know that they just won against the Eagles very, very convincingly, right? But those 3 straight losses are still fresh on my brain, right? They're still fresh on a lot of other fans' brains. Because those 3 losses were so crazy and just such a surprise that Jason Garrett has to be fired. Jason Garrett has to be moved on from at the end of the season. He's been perpetually on the hot seat ever since he was hired. I've yet to watch a full NFL season where somebody doesn't mention Jason Garrett getting fired. There's a reason for that. He's stuck in averageness. He's stuck in the middle. My dude cannot get anything better than an 8-8 record on a consistent basis. Jason Garrett needs to be fired. I think another quarterback. Wow, I'm tired. Sorry. I think another head coach that needs to be fired is Doug Marrone. Doug Marrone, I believe, is the head coach. I believe that's his name. I could be wrong. Pretty sure that's his name. Doug Marrone. That's the head coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars. That team is underperforming. They're riding the coattails of a 2017 AFC Championship appearance, which they lost. For good reason. Their quarterback stunk. This year, their defense seems to not exist anymore. I don't get it. I don't get the Jaguars. The Jaguars should be a good team. I believe they found their quarterback for the future. I don't think it's Nick Foles. I think it's Gardner Minshew. People love him in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh. I read Pittsburgh, sorry. People love him in Jacksonville. People love him in Pittsburgh. People love him everywhere. Who doesn't love Minshew? Right? They found their quarterback. Because of marketing reasons, they can market Minshew so much better. I think they found their guy. And Doug Marrone, even with their guy, with an amazing defense, with a solid team, can't pull it together. This team is very much so underachieving. And I think that's Doug Marrone's fault. I think if they would have had a different head coach, I think you still see Jalen Ramsey on the same team. I think they would have worked it out. Other teams that I think should be looking for a new head coach. Maybe it's a little bit early, but Cincinnati has not looked good. Cincinnati has looked lifeless. They suck. And the main difference between Cincinnati and like a team like Miami, both being 0-7, is, winless, is the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals. They weren't supposed to be. They were supposed to be a middle of the pack team, not an 0-7 team. And I don't know who to blame. Andy Dalton has sucked. Andy Dalton has not been good this season. He had a great first game, but he's not been good since. I don't know who to blame other than their head coach. I know he's a rookie year head coach. He's a rookie head coach, but I've got a strong feeling that he was the wrong choice at head coach. Mike Tomlin. When has Mike Tomlin never been on the hot seat? He should be fired at this point. I know that his quarterback's got injured, and that's what's going to keep him around. But he should have been. Mike Tomlin should have been fired a long time ago. The Cleveland Browns, they got to get rid of Freddie Kitchens. Right? Freddie Kitchens is not a good head coach. Not. Look at Baker's freak regression. Baker Mayfield's turned into an awful quarterback. There are people calling Baker Mayfield the sober Johnny Manziel. That's not a good thing. And that falls on the head coach. Ask anybody who's a professional analysis. Anybody who's a professional analyst. Right? Go watch Zach Schaumler's podcast, Strong Opinion Sports. He covers it perfectly. There's no checkdowns or anything for the Cleveland offense. Right? There's nowhere to go with the football for Cleveland. And I think that falls on the head coaching. I think that's really throwing off Baker as a quarterback. Their offensive line is garbage. I think that's throwing off Baker as a quarterback. Right? There's a few things going on in Cleveland. You got Odell Beckham Jr. and you can't find a way to fit him into the offense. Right? There's things like that it's just like, man, Freddie Kitchens is not cut out to be a good football coach. A good head coach. Sorry. He's a good offensive coordinator. Just not a head coach. And so I think that pretty much concludes it for my Week 7 podcast here. If you enjoyed the content, if you enjoyed the podcast, leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more. Don't miss an episode if you liked it. Every Monday night coming out. I'm going to stay on top of it. Hold me accountable. I'm going to hold myself accountable, but start holding me accountable. Start commenting, right? Send me some messages. Be like, hey, it's Monday. I want to see that video. Just let me know. I'll try to. I'm gonna do my best to stay up with it. And so until then, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.